Welcome back to Little Audio, where I'm going to introduce you into how can you find deep clarity on what you really want in your career and how can you do that. So in this little audio, I want to talk about how do you know what you really want? Why is it important to get to know yourself for making these choices? And at the same time, how can you effectively do self-reflection without getting overwhelmed by too much of it? Because there's always this balance. I sometimes meet people who have overanalyzed themselves, but they're not really getting moving towards moving to the career that they really want. And then other people are kind of refusing to look within and to really meet themselves. So let me start by explaining why it's important to know yourself and how much, if you don't do this, your choices are actually influenced in ways that you probably don't want to be influenced. And then I'm going to talk about how we can do that effectively. So one term, and this is so central in this, and this is what we're going to do in the Deep Clarity course as well, is I'm going to talk to you through how do you really understand yourself? How do you really spot what inspires you? What does your value system look like? Because what I've seen is that so many of us subconsciously take over value systems or definitions of what success looks like from our family, from the social context that we were raised in, the cultural context that we were raised in. And often we either try to do it exactly the same way or try to do it the exact opposite way if you've been kind of like the rebellious child. And often the thing is, both of these tendencies keep us hostage, or at least we have not consciously decided, right? I'm not saying that none of the values that you took from the context you were raised in are bad, but a lot of the times we have not taken a look at these and asked ourselves, is this really what I want? Is this really what makes me fulfilled? Is this really what gives me inspiration? Is this really what success means in my mind? And this is why it's so important, and I call this growing up 2.0, to take a look at this. And this is the first part that I have in the Deep Clarity course for you, because I've seen this even all the way up to CEOs that I work with. Some of them, for example, take over the family business, but it could still be people that just like are in very high leadership positions. And sometimes they don't feel fulfilled with their career, or they cannot drive the company forward anymore because they're still holding themselves hostage to old expectations, old ways of what they think they should be doing, but it doesn't really suit them. And it's always difficult to be really successful if you're trying to be someone else. So that's why it's so important to look at this. And to share this with you, I've had people in their 60s who still want to prove to their parents that they are good enough. I worked with clients that bankrupted themselves because in some ways they didn't want, I don't know, to live the capitalist life that their parents have lived, or it's been the opposite, that they really moved really far away because they didn't want like a small time life like their parents had, but then they realize that a part of them really wants this. So you can already ask yourself now, while listening to this, maybe, what are things that you have consciously chosen, and what things are you doing because either you have taken these aspects over without questioning them, or because you want to consciously prove a point. Because that's the things that we're going to look at in the course. And then another thing that you need to be aware of when you want to make good choices about how to really build a fulfilling career for yourself is, what are your human needs, right? Often we don't pursue the career that we really want because, for example, certainty is very important to us. And we're not really sure if we're going to leave this comfort zone that kind of feels not that comfortable anymore because it's kind of miserable or depressing, or at least not exciting for us anymore, but we kind of know that we get certainty here. So it's important to get to know yourself, like what are your most important human needs? And this is what we'll walk you through in the course as well. And how can you get them met when you make a shift like this? This is one of the biggest work I do with my clients, is to look at the new vision that they've set and like, how can we meet your needs there? And maybe it's just not, that's not possible, but you just don't know how to do it in that context yet. So let's figure it out. Yeah, because I see so many people not living purposeful careers because they haven't looked at their needs and haven't understood how can they meet them in a new context, because we obviously always know how to meet our needs in a known context. But part of building a purpose-driven, fulfilling career, something that you really want to do and that excites you in the long run, takes that kind of work. to do it. Yeah. And when you have that, when you got to know yourself this way, and by all means, this is an iterative process that you can do throughout your entire life. So don't stress about figuring all of this out right now. But it's an important process to then really make good choices. And in my experience, when people then set a vision or set goals, they have more certainty and a bigger commitment to keep going just because they know that it's so connected to who they are and it really resonates with them. And it's easier for them to keep going because they're not constantly doubting themselves. Because when we learn to trust ourselves more and we know ourselves really well, we're less likely to stop pursuing something. And this is what I see over and over again. Even when you, and maybe this is a little Miss Butter as well, even if you live a purpose-driven career, it doesn't mean that you're never ever going to have any difficulties. But honestly, the way I know most of my audiences, you guys are anyways adrenaline junkies and you love new challenges most of the time at least. But still, it is obviously, I'm not going to try and paint like a rosy picture here. Like you're still going to have challenges, but the better you know yourself and the more commitment you will have towards this path, and just see that as, if you haven't listened to my other episode yet around how you can find purpose in all your jobs, you will see that any challenge is just the next lesson that you need to learn to get even closer to your purpose-driven life. So this is kind of the reason why it's really important to understand yourself, because that's like one of the solid foundations you need to build to then build really good careers from there. How do you do this without getting overwhelmed? I think the most important thing is that you do start embracing trial and error, and that you also know that with every step you take, you will learn something new about yourself. So the way I've designed Deep Clarities is that it's going to teach you processes and it's going to give you tools that you can use as review methods anytime during your path, right? So this is, I think, a very condensed, easy to go through version of what do I want right now? And then you can trust yourself. You're just going to go for it. And when you hit the next milestone, you can use this again to review it. That's why I think it's such a good product. And I've been working with people for, over 5 years professionally, but honestly, probably since I started my career, this is the conversations I have with human beings all the time. Like, what drives you? Why are you doing this? How are you finding more impact and purpose in what you're doing? It's a timeless concept, right? This is always going to stay the same. We don't need to reinvent this as fancy things over and over again. Even if I talk to my dad about this, and some of my clients are in their 60s, it's always kind of the same principles of what you need to look at to understand yourself and then make good choices for where you want to go in your direction, in your career direction. So what I'm giving you right now is a blueprint that you can use and that you can reuse over and over and over again. And I think this is the amazing thing about it. So I hope that this is going to help you understand what the importance is of getting to know yourself and making the right career choices and building a purpose-driven career. And since I'm launching this for the very first time, you're getting the Deep Clarity course as an introductory rate until 23rd of September. I just extended it because I have a big family function coming up and I needed a bit more time to put the course together. So if you're listening to this and you still want in, you just send me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or via email the word purpose, and I'm going to send you the link to sign up. It's only for 89 euros, so it's an absolute no-brainer if you think about what usually packages cost if you're doing intensive one-on-one coaching. So this is amazing value. It's really, really cool, and I've put like all of my heart and soul into this. So let me know if this is something you want to do. I hope that nevertheless, this episode has already helped you understand yourself a bit better and know why it's important that you spend some time to understand yourself better. Because in my experience is the more you lay a good foundation, the more the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of your career are going to be what you really want them to be.